What is up, Force fam? Star Wars Dad back for another video. Today we're going to be looking at some budget decks. I was able to finally kind of get some more accurate pricing so that I was able to do another one of these videos, which people seem to really enjoy the first time around. Before we get into today's video, please make sure to check out the Patreon as we are building a great community, and to get more exclusive content from there, please smash that like and subscribe button, as it really does help the channel to grow. And one of the ways we are currently growing is we are building a great community on the Discord, and we have just created the first online tournament. It's going to be free to enter. It's going to be small at first, like 32 people, just try to get them going. I think the idea is to do one of these once a month. We'll kind of just go from there. The prize for a non-Patreon member is just going to be a free month to the Patreon, but it's just a great way to just get in there and play some games and play in a tournament style best of 3 premier setting. And then if you are a Patreon member and you are a paid member, then if you win, you will win a Carbonite pack, is the prizing. Just trying to just keep it simple at first and just kind of see how things go. But make sure, if you're interested in that, to go ahead and sign up for that. That is on August 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you just make sure you sign up on Melee and check out the Discord, as there's more details in the Discord, is because we're going to meet up in the Discord at 5:30 for anyone who's playing. And then actually I believe one of our Discord members, who's a mod, is going to be commentating on the matchups as well. And I'm not sure all the details on that yet. It might be on his channel or whatnot, but we'll figure that out. But yeah, definitely check that out. Also, please make sure to sign up for the 6,500 subscriber giveaway, where I'll be giving away 3 Prestige Anakin to 3 lucky winners in the comments once we hit 6,500 subscribers. So for today's video, I will be giving away a Quinlan Galactic Championship promo to 1 lucky winner in the comments. Just comment and let me know what are some of your favorite budget decks to play, or maybe some that I left off this list from today, or some that you feel like are really competitive, or just a lot of fun. I would love to hear some other budget decks, and especially ones you think are really competitive. Love to try one of those out and maybe do a video on it or something. To get into today's video, so the goal I set for myself was to keep it as close to $60 or less, because I just feel like that's like, some of these decks, like it's really hard to go much less than $60. Some of these other decks, though, it's possible. But this first one here, and these are in no particular order, I just kind of how I did them. But this first one is Kylo Yellow. So that you're losing Kylo's TIE Silencer. That's one of the more expensive cards, and you're replacing that with the Mercenary Gunship. And then I want to say I took out the Ruthless Raiders to get it closer to a price that made sense. So you could definitely go without Hotshot Blaster, and you could play some other things, and that'll save you like $30. But Hotshot Blaster is really good, especially in the yellow version, because you're able to play it from both colors. Like you can play it for 1, which is great in Kylo decks, just to be able to play it for 1 resource and put it on something and push damage, or you can smuggle it later for 3 and immediately tack in for +2. So it's just so good in here, and that's why it's closer to 60. Like you could definitely take that card out and just probably play like another cheap unit, a 1-drop or a 2-drop, or you could even play like Ruthless Raiders. I think would be a good sub for the Hotshot Blaster if you don't have those, or if you just want to get it closer to like $40, $30 maybe. Yeah, because it would be like, they're like about $10 each, so it'd be like closer to $30, which is extremely cheap. And you'll see, like I did a Color Tarkin Town one next, and it's like $30, I think. So yeah, that's the card that's bringing it up. But yeah, I mean, this is just a great way to it's a fast deck. It doesn't lose a lot. Like I said, you could play the Ruthless Raider at the top end if you want to take out the Blaster, but I like the Blaster in here if you have it. It's just going to go wide, push damage really fast, and it's just a great way to kind of play an aggro deck and get into the game for a decent price. Like, under $60 is not bad. And most of these are extremely cheap cards, again, except for the Hotshot Blaster. So here's the Kylo Tarkin Town. It's at $33, so there's no Hotshot Blaster in here, but you are still playing Fallen Lightsaber, which is probably the one card that brings the price up here in a little bit. The most expensive card in here is actually Aggression, I think, which is closer to probably like $7, I want to say. Used to be more. The price has gone down because it hasn't been used as much. We are playing the Ruthless Raider in this version. This version's a little different for sure. But again, just going wide. You could still play some of the units I played in this other version, like the Guavian Antagonizer, or even the Death Star Stormtrooper if you wanted to go wider. Again, from here, you're trying to ping things early with like Migs Mayfield, Daring Raid plus a 1-drop just to kind of use your Tarkin Town. Tarkin Town is very strong with Kylo as a way to just remove their threats that are trying to put pressure on you or take out your ground units and just kind of get as much pressure as you can quickly. Again, just another aggro deck just to kind of get into the game for really cheap. And just for reference, the last time I made a budget video, someone took the Kylo Tarkin Town budget deck that I had built and got second place at a store showdown. So these decks absolutely can be viable. And then I think he was using another budget deck from that same video to get another friend into the game. So, you know, don't sleep on these budget decks. Some of them can actually do really, really well. But yeah, just another super fast aggro deck to kind of get you into the game. Or maybe like get a friend. You know, that's the idea, is like if you're, you know, trying to get a friend to play the game too, like if you can entice them or just build, you can build one of these cheap decks for them and get them to play. And some of these decks are actually pretty good. I haven't tried out the Kylo ones that much, but some of these other ones I tested out and they felt pretty good. And it was actually a lot of fun to make them because it was like playing with a bunch of cards that you wouldn't normally play with, but it still felt very competitive. Here's Gar Saxon at $47. You know, basically you're just losing like Darth Vader was, I think, the biggest thing I took out of here. Maybe like a Hot Shot Blaster, maybe one or two of those I took out. Yeah, I mean, this deck is, again, another aggro deck. Doesn't lose much. It was already kind of a cheap deck. I think I put the Boba Fett in the Vader spot, which is just a shielded unit that does great. But again, this list doesn't feel that much different than the normal Gar Saxon list. So this is very close to the original list. There's not many changes here. So I do think that this deck will be competitive enough if you're just getting into this game or just trying to get a friend into the game. But, you know, you're just using those shields and benefiting from those friendly upgraded units. Here's a Gar ECL deck. So another version just using ECL. The difference here, of course, is like using Gideon. Gideon's very good in Gar. We're using Overwhelming Barrage and Craving Power as a way to, you know, deal with our opponent's board. It's also just great for when Gar flips. Cargo Juggernaut is nice in here as a way to just like gain some life and play another shielded unit that gets to be 5 power. Getting that 4 life is really nice. Chilson is a great Sentinel in here because of the upgrades that it comes in with. Just another fun one. I think this one's actually pretty competitive too. Here's Kit Fisto. I just did a video on this not too long ago, maybe like a week ago. Not a lot of changes from my list. The biggest changes were just like taking out Home 1 and putting in Reinforcement Walker, and then taking out Obi-Wan and putting in Echo Base. I think those are the biggest. I think Adi Gallia was another one I had to sub out for Witch of the Mist. But I mean, it doesn't, otherwise this deck does not feel that much different. You are losing a little bit of Jedi synergy with adding in the Witch of the Mist and the Echo Base, but overall it feels like the same deck. Those aren't like huge changes. Like Echo Base, I mean, Obi-Wan's dying most of the time anyways, and Echo Base can actually kill something with that 4 power. Reinforcement Walker is getting you card draw and consistent life gain. It's not bringing anything back, but you have Kelleran main board to, you know, to dig for units. And then the sideboard, I think, was pretty much the same. You could also play, if you wanted to go a little higher with the price, you could probably play Yoda at the top end. But this deck is just so much fun. And this is another just fairly cheap deck to play. And check out that video if you haven't, because that deck is so much fun. And it's very competitive too. There's a few different ways to play it. Like I said, my version is a little more low to the ground with cheap removal alongside cheap units, while I like slowly build the board up to Kit Fisto to make Kit Fisto's flip a little more impactful. And then I just use Hu Yang or General's Blade on the Kit Fisto typically. Occasionally I'm just using the General's Blade on turn 2 just to like start cheating things out and getting an advantage depending on what I'm playing against. You're using Grenade Strike and Open Fire for like space heavy decks, and Jedi Starfighter's great against space heavy decks. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Check it out for sure if you haven't seen that video. Boba 2 Yellow. This deck definitely got a few new cards with like Depa Baloba. What was the other one? Contracted Hunter and Eager Escort were cards that had been new over the past, since the last time I did a video on budget decks, which has been a while because I wasn't able to. Those are 3 cards that have been different, but this is a little more expensive, closer to 60, because I'm playing the home ones, which I just really like in here. If you took out the home ones, this deck is like $35. You could I would just add in a Ewing reinforcement and a reinforcement walker if you take out the home ones. So that's just an easy way to make it even cheaper. But yeah, this deck is, again, just a lot of fun. It's a great way to introduce somebody to the game. And it's fairly competitive. It can catch people off guard with all the ambush effects. Like, almost every one of your units is ambushing in. So it's just a pain in the butt to deal with. And they're all, contracted hunters swinging in on turn 2 for 5 power and killing something. Like, that's just crazy good. And at any point in time, it's just spending 3 resources to kill something with a unit is really not that bad. That's basically a 3 resource removal spell on the ground to do 5 damage. So, but yeah, another fun one. Check this one out for sure if you like Boba Yellow. I know this deck hasn't seen a ton of play lately, but again, it's just a fun, great way to get in the game, playing a bunch of ambush units. Okay, so now get into a little more of the competitive decks that are, this is one of the best decks in the game. I would say top 5 decks right now. Of course, I took out a few things to make it more affordable, like Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka is one of the more expensive cards. You still get to play Kira in here. You still have good amount of hand disruption with Force Throw, Spark of Rebellion. Bamboozle's been really strong lately. I took out the Adigalia. That was the other card. Crafty Smuggler goes in place of Adigalia, which is honestly, I think that's fine anyways, because Crafty Smuggler comes in shielded, which I'd rather have in a Quinlan type deck, especially with all the Quinlans being played now. Otherwise, it's very similar to a typical Quinlan list, and it plays, it's very competitive. So this is like a great way to, if you want to play a competitive deck for cheap, at $50, like, that's not bad to play one of the best decks in the game. Of course, it's, you're going to lose a little bit of the power. The optimal version is closer to $100, I think, but you're not losing a ton. Like, it still feels very similar to Quinlan decks. You are losing, again, I'm not playing the Hotshot Blaster. That definitely hurts. I'm trying to think if there's a card you could sub out to get that in here. I can't think of the prices off the top of my head. But yeah, that was one of the more expensive cards. Like, again, that's like $10 a piece. So it brings the deck's price up a lot. But it is a really nice card to have in this deck. So you're losing that, which definitely hurts. But again, otherwise it still feels like Quinlan, and you can win many times in Quinlan without having Hotshot Blaster. So, and again, we just subbed in Breaking In for the Hotshot Blaster. So if you want to try Quinlan for cheap, give this one a run. I'm playing 3 Commandeers on the side. I think that's a good substitute for like space heavy decks. Just steal their stuff and just attack them with their own stuff. It feels like a good answer. And otherwise, we're using Tarkin Town, we're using Daring Raids. Not as much Force Energy because we took out the Adigalia and the Ahsoka. So you lose a little bit of the Force Energy with Force Throw as well. But you still get like Plo Koon, Dappa Baloba, and Kira. Next, this is another competitive one. This one feels so similar. Like, I looked at a list that just won a tournament, and I kept the Hotshot Blasters in here. If anything, I think I cut Cad Bane, but Cad Bane wasn't even in the main board. So this is very similar to the list that just won a big tournament in a PQ. So this is going to be a very competitive deck. I took out Boba Fett. That was the other card that was expensive. But I've played Cad Bane a lot, and I do not feel like you need Boba Fett for it to be competitive. So Boba Fett's a strong unit. It's a 3/5, and it's, its ability is great, but it's not necessary to win with this deck. This deck does what it does because of all the Underworld synergy, and you still got the Hotshot Blaster, which is great in here. Still got Surprise Strike. You still got Bazine and McClunky and all the shenanigans with that. And then this particular version, which is what I liked it as a good option for a budget deck, was just using all these 1-drops. You're playing 15 1-drops in this deck that just allow you to ping things for cheap. The only one that's not an Underworld unit is the Stormtrooper, but it's such a strong unit. So you're just going wide in this version, pinging things, Tarkin Towning right away, and then just like pushing damage fast. Like, this feels like a very good budget deck. Still playing the Ruthless Raiders too. I was able to get both of that and the Hotshot Blaster in here. So definitely try this one out if you want an ultra competitive budget deck. Great way to kind of introduce yourself to Cad Bane as well. Next up is Krennic. This is another one. This one's really cheap at 30 bucks. This one felt great in testing. It was surprisingly good. Craving Power feels good for Krennic in here. You could probably even pop that up to 3, I think would be a good idea, because Krennic flips on 5 and just play 3 Craving Power. Maybe drop like a, because we do have 3 5-drops in here. Maybe drop, I would say one of the Rucks, because Steadfast can swing as a 7/7 on the flip. Gideon's amazing in here. I'm not dropping that. So maybe like one of the Rucks for a 3rd Craving Power, I think is a good idea. But yeah, this deck felt very good in testing. Like, it did not feel like Krennic lost much at all. Yeah, you're losing like, you know, Avenger and Devastator, and those cards are amazing. But there's a lot of games where you win without them. You're losing Vader. You know, you're not getting the new Vader. But Steadfast is strong. It comes out a turn earlier. Craving Power is strong. Gideon's amazing. Ruck is still really good. So I mean, you're not playing the 6-drop Vader, but you're playing 3 5-drops, and all of them do a great job in here. Ruck being able to kill things and then shield itself afterwards is great. Gideon being able to pump up your units, pump up Krennic. That goes great with Craving Power too. The synergy that Craving Power has with Krennic and Gideon. So that, again, I would go ahead and change that to a 3rd Craving Power and drop 1 Ruck. And then the sideboard, you're playing like the Parliamentarians for like Kylo decks and Perilous Position for Space Heavy, or big leaders that are a threat, where you got the Rivals Falls in here for leaders as well. Palpatine's Return to bring back your Relentlesses or even your Reinforcement Walkers. So this is a super fun one for cheap, and a great way to kind of introduce yourself into these colors. But definitely give this one a shot. And then we have a Kira budget deck. Now this one was harder to get under the $60 because I wanted to play Data Vault, which is why it's a little more expensive, because I had to play more cards. But very similar cards to Krennic. We are playing 3 Barrage, 3 Craving Power. Still playing the Gideon, playing the Timely, playing the Cargo Juggernaut as another way to gain life. Still playing Top Target in here too. So a good amount of life gain in here. And then Reinforcement Walker as another form of life gain. But yeah, this one felt good in testing too. It felt, again, it feels very similar to a Kira deck, like one of the more optimal lists. Yeah, again, you're losing Avenger, Vader, you're losing Devastator, and those cards are amazing. But if you want to get introduced to a deck and just kind of, or introduce a friend to Kira or a soft control type of deck, and you probably have most of these cards just laying around, you know, that's the great part about these decks. Like, especially when you're introducing your friends, you can put together this cheap budget deck to get them to play with you and see if they like the game. And it'll actually be somewhat competitive, like where it can hold its own for the most part. But yeah, I was proud of myself for getting this one close to $60, and it felt good in testing. Next one was Han Blue. This was another one that felt surprisingly good. Yeah, we're losing Luke Skywalker and we're losing Anakin, and that hurts. Those cards are both amazing. But you know, we're just substituting those with like Obi-Wan, Luminara, and Redemption. And the Anakin. I think Anakin's decent enough. Obi-Wan, obviously, to pump up our units. You could play Forces with me as another way to pump up your attackers. Luminara does great. It kind of does what Warrior does. Gets you like 3-4 life, which is nice. And then it comes in with 6 power as a 6/7. So it's not bad. It's not killing anything, but it's gaining you life. Chewbacca still does what it does. Redemption is another way to gain life on 7 resources. Yeah, it's another one, like a great way to get introduced to Han and just play a decently competitive enough deck. So again, if you just have cards lying around, this is a cheap way to build a Han 2 blue deck if you have a buddy that wants to play, but you are playing Luke or Anakin in your deck. Otherwise, like, the sideboard feels very similar to what I'm playing. Like, you're playing the Force Throws, Jedi's in Hiding, and the Pillages to disrupt your opponent's hand. This one, again, felt very competitive. Like, surprisingly competitive because of the other things that you're playing alongside. Even though you're losing Anakin and Luke, which are big. These are big losses. You know, Han's just such a good leader that you can still find ways to make this work. So, but yeah, that's going to do it for the video. I just wanted to, you know, do one of these. I hadn't done one of these in a while, and it was fun kind of making these and using some, finding ways to use cards you don't normally use and to get these price points under $60. And like I said, this one, the Kira, the Krennic, the Cad, those four especially all felt like competitive enough, where you'd be surprised. This one felt competitive as well. Just, Quinlan does what it does, and it does a good job of it. So, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely let me know, what some of your favorite budget decks to play are, or maybe some ones that I left out from this list. Would love to hear it. But as always, y'all have a good one, and peace out.